Welcome back to episode 14 of the Double Down podcast presented by Waterwave. Today is Friday, December 23rd, and I'm super excited to be back in the studio with an amazing guest. But before we get to that interview, we need to wrap up the Double Down weekly wrap-up. Not a whole lot to wrap up this week. We got to, in terms of us, go for basketball. We got a good win against Arkansas Pine Bluff. We kind of mentioned last week how we were on a little bit of a skid, lost 5 straight, played some really good teams. So, it was good to just kind of get back on track, get a little win, and kind of just get ready for, these Christmas games coming up. We got a game on the 22nd. So, as you guys know, we pre-record episodes, so we would have had played on Thursday. So, hopefully you guys came out. I think there's a big storm coming our way, so maybe you guys didn't come out. Maybe it was a little too cold, but that's all right, and you guys catch us when we come back for Big Ten play starting next year. Other than that, just kind of getting ready for Christmas, looking for gifts for family. I'm excited to be home for Christmas. We get a couple days off. And with that being said, we are going to take a little break. We're going to take a 2-week break over the Christmas and New Year's period. So this is the last episode coming to you guys before the New Year's. But with that said, obviously it's a busy time of the year, but I'm super excited to be back in the studio. So let's get to our featured interview right now. I'm excited to welcome on a friend of mine, of now the podcast, Courtney Fredrickson. Thank you for being here with me in the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you have a pretty unique story when it comes to injuries and when it comes to basketball. But let's bring it back. Like all the way growing up. Tell us about how you were introduced into sports. What sports were there when you were introduced into it, and why did you pick to play sports? Like what made you want to pursue the dream of maybe playing a college sport? But take us back, like growing up with it.
So growing up, my sister played volleyball, basketball, track, soccer. We were in it all. Yeah. She is 3 years older than me, so I always wanted to do everything that she wanted to do. My dad played basketball growing up. He played at Regis University in Denver for college, and then played with the Denver Nuggets actually for a year, which he obviously loved. It was his dream, obviously, to continue playing. Ended up playing 3 years overseas, and he always teases that he wished he could have played 3 more years. Yeah. He kind of regrets that he didn't take it longer. Mm-hmm. So he was definitely the one to get me into basketball. My mom played volleyball at the University of Oregon for I think a year and a half, almost 2 years. And my sister actually went to the University of Oregon too, not to play sports or anything, but so that was definitely like our family was just always involved with sports. My sister and I definitely grew up tomboys. Like we were just always involved in any type of athletic thing. Hunting. My dad always gets us hunting and stuff. It's
as you're batting your eyes over there.
Literally, we're just like little boys over here. He doesn't have a son. It's just us two. So, no, we were always involved in sports. So my dad was definitely the one who got me into basketball, though. Mm-hmm. He was my coach growing up, which was really special for me in elementary school and middle school, and then obviously handed me off in high school. But that was really special for me to learn from him. He, by far my favorite coach out of all the coaches I've had. He was really special. He really developed me. We had a sport court outside, so he was always out there rebounding for me. We had the little goggles on. He had his whole bag of like his tricks and stuff to train us. So he was the one to get me into basketball, and then it kind of took off from there.
Yeah, I kind of had the same story with my dad coaching me all the way up, and you can. Let's talk about this quick. Do you think there was more added pressure on you being like, the coach's daughter growing up, or, because I think personally from my story is like, I wouldn't say there was added pressure, but like I knew I had to, you had to show up every day, whether, maybe some days you didn't want to show up. Kind of talk about that playing for your dad, because it's different for sure.
I think there was some added pressure, but I actually liked it. Mm-hmm. I kind of took that leadership role and wanted to be that person that, on and off the court was a leader. Yeah. I was always involved young, like I said, with my sister's group too. So he coached her also. Okay. So I would just get dragged to the gym and be that little younger sister, like on the side, dribbling or whatever, trying to get into their drills. Mm-hmm. So I think it started from there, and it definitely, it played into me playing up too. I kind of got that confidence early. And just obviously being around him and his mental for the game is just fantastic. Still, but he's like 65 years old right now, and still
he still loves it.
He still loves it.
Yeah.
So, No, I got it from him, and I just think that it gave me the early confidence that I needed. I didn't shy away from that. I wanted to be the one in the gym, like, I'm the coach's daughter. I need to step up, you know? So I definitely think I got the confidence from that.
Yeah, and that's a special thing, too, because it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, he's coaching everybody. He loves the whole team. It's like, hey, this is my daughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, and it works out for you. You end up, you know, leaving early. As an 8th grader, you start on varsity. Kind of bring us through that, because that can be scary. You know, I mean, maybe it wasn't scary for you, but I know if I was an 8th grader, I would be scared to go up there with some bigger and taller people. Talk about, you know, just leaving your 8th grade team, going up playing varsity, kind of just like what were initial emotions and how did it kind of result throughout the year?
So I actually played, when I was in 7th grade, I played for the sophomore team and then with JV. You know how you can play like one full game of sophomore and then half of JV?
Like 3 halves or something.
Yeah, whatever it is. So I was doing that, and I was really nervous. I remember, like, you think back to when you're 13 years old, like, I'm a skinny, scrawny little girl that, like, is not mentally prepared to play against, like, 18-year-olds.
You have the skills, but it's like these are bigger grown
they were
women.
big grown women, right?
Literally.
So that was really scary at first when I was 13 playing up. I definitely I think summer workouts and stuff, being able to like scrimmage against the varsity is where I again got more of my confidence. I do remember, I'm not saying I went into it and was like, oh, I'm the shit. Can I swear?
You can.
But I just remember being really nervous that summer. And then that kind of just developed from there. Like, I got the confidence. I thought it was really cool to be a 7th grader playing on JV.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got some big minutes and performed really well when I would get in. And so I think that carried over to 8th grade, you know, varsity. I remember our whole senior class that year had kind of left, so it was a big opening for me, and everyone kind of looked at it like, 8th grader on varsity? Like, that's unheard of basically before. I mean, Tyus Jones, but Taylor Hill was years before me. She was an 8th grader playing on varsity, but not really in like a big conference.
Yeah, especially for like a big school like Minnetonka.
Yeah.
You know, you see like all like the northern schools or southern schools.
She was at Minneapolis North, and then Tyus is Apple Valley, but so it was kind of, you know, people looked at me a little differently, and there was some angry parents because I did take minutes from, you know, juniors and seniors and people that were significantly older than me. So that was pretty hard because a lot of them weren't friends. And so like, it was weird for me. Like, I just wanted to develop in my career and be the best that I could be. But then it was also like, I'm in competition and I'm just a 14-year-old. So it was very interesting.
There's such a unique political, you know, dynamic with high school sports, because it's like, you know, the parents become less involved, but like you're still involved, and you want your daughter to play, and it's like you're obviously, I mean, I don't know the situation, but you're probably just as good, if not better, than the player, and it's like you deserve to be there. But it's like, hey, I'm a senior, I put in all the work. And it's kind of that unique thing. But you know, you end up having an awesome, you know, high school career. I think you ended up scoring 1,800 points, over 1,000 rebounds. You end up being a 4-star recruit, 93rd ranked in the country. Take us through initial recruiting. I bet it started pretty young, probably 8th, 9th grade, maybe. Take us through the initial recruiting, and then you end up, you know, choosing the Wisconsin Badgers, and what kind of led you into that decision?
My recruiting was honestly really fun. I know some people say it's really stressful, but I enjoyed being wanted by schools.
You have to.
I thought it was really fun. Went to different schools for, you know, unofficials and officials, but I remember my first letter was North Carolina, and I almost like peed my pants. I was like, North Carolina right now. I got my first offer as an 8th grader, I think, and then it just kind of took off from there. I was heavily recruited by the U, starting early, but they had obviously a couple coaching changes, but it was Pam Borden at the time. And so I used to go to all the, like, the U of M camps or whatever. During recruiting, I really was like obsessed with, you know, I liked UCLA, I liked North Carolina. I had a couple dream schools, but I always found my way back to the Big Ten. I always obviously grew up in Minnesota and just wanted to be around the Big Ten. I watched Iowa, I watched all these big time schools. So I just always found my way back to the Big Ten, and kind of wanted my family to be able to come watch me more. I was looking at schools in like California and just super far away, and I was like, that'd be really fun, but am I even ready to, you know, be across the country? I was 18 at the time. And I just, you know, I didn't know if I wanted to be that far away from family. And I was heavily looking into the U, but I kind of feel like I got gypped by the U. They
tell us this story.
Yeah, God. They just didn't. I mean, as somebody who's getting recruited, I'm from Minnesota. I mean, you want to keep your hometown kids, obviously.
Yep.
And they just didn't show me the love. Like, they showed me love when I was 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. They got a coaching change. I was like, oh, that's why, like, I'm gonna get, shown love from this new coaching staff. Didn't get it. And I just didn't understand it. Like, I was trying so hard to get noticed by them, and I had 25 offers from schools across the country and not even my hometown, and it was really pissing me off. And I think that's why, that was one of my biggest reasons. Like, I love Wisconsin, and that's why I wanted to play in the Big Ten, is so I wanted to kick Minnesota's ass.
No, well, I don't blame you. It's a new thing, because it's like, you have to go somewhere where you're wanted at the end of the day. Like, I talked about when my brother was being recruited, it's like you have to go somewhere where it's like the head coach wants you, and if you're not feeling that love, like, it's why would you not? You have that chip on your shoulder, go to Wisconsin and come back. And
oh my gosh, and Wisconsin, like, they're freaking amazing. I loved the whole campus atmosphere. I met some of my best friends there. That was what really, like, drew me to Wisconsin, was the whole campus atmosphere, the alumni feel of it. Like, everybody there is so supportive, such a family. They have this slogan, like, once a Badger, always a Badger, or whatever. Ugh. So I know you probably hate hearing this, but no, everybody who's a Gopher who visits the Badger campus says they love it. So
I mean, I'm not gonna do any, like, bulletin board material here, but, like, it's different, and it's it's unique, and it's much more of that college kind of feel. We're in Minneapolis, so it's you have to have love and appreciation for what's here, but, like, if you want that college feel, that
it's just very different.
It is very different. You end up picking Wisconsin. You come in and kind of just take us through initial, like, that change from high school to college. Like, obviously, it's going to be harder, it's going to be faster, it's going to be stronger. But where was your head at, like, coming in? And is it like, hey, I'm her, like, I'm good enough to play at this level, like, I'm going to start as a freshman? Or was it, like, kind of nerves? Kind of just take us through, like, the first couple weeks of practice, coming in as a freshman.
So part of the reason I chose Wisconsin was because they were developing at that time. It was a big opportunity for me to be able to come in and play. I didn't want to ride the bench my first couple years or entire career. So that was a big reason that I wanted to come in with a lot of confidence and be able to change the program. I was fortunate to come in my freshman year. It kind of felt like I got thrown to the wolves a little bit, because we had a foreign tour that like right away. Wow. So I was like, crap, I'm getting thrown into games like 6 weeks into campus.
We just graduated from high school.
Like, I graduated from high school, and the next day I left for Wisconsin. So I was like, this is a lot right now. And then you start, obviously, your foreign tour practices like right away in June, and then leave in August. So I'm like, okay, this is a lot right now that I'm being thrown into. But I like that stuff. I don't ever, like, I thrive under pressure, so I don't know. I like that. I liked coming in and trying to be the person. So that definitely helped me having, we were in Canada, and I played really, really well. I mean, he kind of was just figuring out lineups, so I didn't start, every game out there. But the minutes that I did get, I played really, really well, and kind of stuck out. So I think it kind of went from there that I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like, I just was thrown into this, 6-8 weeks into this, and I can play really well. And then just kind of worked my ass off to get there in the preseason. I had a really good preseason with a lot of confidence. Again, there was a lot of opportunity for me to step up and be that person as a freshman, and then I got the job.
No, and I think there's, the confidence that comes with just, like, being out there and just, like, realize, like, taking a deep breath and realizing this is still basketball at the end of the day. Like, the sport didn't change. It's still the same thing you've been doing for and that's what I try to tell some of our guys too. It's like, dude, you're here for a reason. Like, you got recruited to Wisconsin, you got recruited to Minnesota for a reason. Like, you're good enough to play there. And it obviously shows. You played in all 31 games. You started 27 of them. You had a pretty good freshman year. You averaged 27.9 minutes. Like, a lot of freshmen don't do that. And I think that's a lot of times that freshmen don't understand. It's like they're coming in and it's like, hey, I'm going to play. Like, and that doesn't happen all the time, especially playing 30 minutes. Take us through that year, highs, lows, kind of just like what you thought of your freshman year at Wisconsin.
My freshman year, I think, was really good. My sophomore year was definitely great, like better. But my freshman year, obviously, it's just all new to you. So I'm nervous. You start Big Ten play, and you're like, oh my God, these girls are athletic. Like, everyone always says you go from, high school to college and you forget all the rankings and everything, and you obviously forget the rankings, but you forget how it just feels like girls are more grown. Like, I'm sure, I don't know, as a freshman, when you're coming in and you're seeing seniors in the Big Ten and you're like, holy crap.
Well, you have that like, oh shit moment.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, this is a lot. So I was a little nervous. You see the big, stadiums and arenas and stuff that you're playing in. But I had a lot of confidence. I think definitely just instilled for me from my family, and playing up really has helped me. Playing AAU, I'm going to rewind a little bit. AAU, I played it for North Tartan, and they're like obviously the top of the top.
You guys won like 7 state championships.
In a row, I think. And we're also playing in the EYBL. So I think rewinding to there, EYBL is where I kind of got my first taste of like playing against D1 girls, because you're playing, like, I could pick out 4 D1 girls on every team that we would play at the EYBL. So, and then of course you have like college coaches lined, So I think that's honestly where some of it started too, and being able to play at a high level without the nerves. Sorry, back to Wisconsin though. But my freshman year, I mean, I remember it being, just it wasn't like subpar, but I just knew I could do better. Like, I came out and I had some really good games. But I just remember being, all right, freshman year's over. Like, I got my jitters out. I can actually play the way I want to play now. And that's when I like really transitioned my sophomore year into the player that I really wanted to be.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, I mean, with any sport, but with basketball, we always talk about like the sophomore jump and like, being able to like, hey, I'm not a freshman anymore. Like these little mistakes I made, these little things I screwed up on, like, I know how it works now, and you can't, like, you got to show up every day and you got to like really lock in. And it worked for you. You have a pretty great sophomore year. Kind of just take us through that year. Obviously you have, your career high, a bunch of career highs that year. You played a great year. Take us through that year and like how you kind of made that jump.
So like I said, after freshman year, I just remember sitting in the locker room after the last game in the Big Ten tournament and was like, okay, that one's done. Like, I know what to expect now. So I'm going to come in ready to go. I feel like my whole training, my freshman to sophomore year was just different. I had more confidence. Like, my whole freshman summer, I just was like, okay, this is what we do in the weight room. Like, what do we do here, So you come in and you're like, okay, I'm more of a leader. Maybe I'm not a senior yet, but I am still more of a leader. I'm filling different roles that maybe are graduated. I'm becoming a more versatile player. I just feel like I trained different. I spent extra hours in the gym. As a sophomore, you kind of see like what you wish your freshman year self would have done or maybe worked on more.
No doubt.
So that was definitely what I was, focusing on, was shooting and getting involved with my assistant coaches more and just watching film and stuff like that. My sophomore year, I just had a lot more confidence. I just felt like, players and other opponents knew me more, and so they kind of had been able to scout my game and stuff like that, which, in my opinion, is special. They're out here like, oh, she's a lefty, or that's a shooter, or whatever you want to say. And so that's special to me to have them, acknowledge me and know who I am, and it's not just some freshman that's coming in,
Well, and it makes you realize like, hey, this is real. Like, I got to step up. Because it's like, if you catch the ball, someone's called, it's like shooter. It's like, okay, I can shoot it, but like, here's the next part of my game that you guys don't even know yet. But I've been working on all summer, and I know I have. So that's a special thing. I think it's something that you kind of don't know your freshman. You just don't know your freshman year. You know, it's just like you're watching other people, you're trying to learn, but at the end of the day, it's like you don't know because you aren't in it yet. You know? And you finally get in it. You have a great year. You go on to your junior year, and this is where you're kind of your journey begins, right? This is why you're on the pod. Kind of just take us through thoughts going into junior year, and then just what happened to you on the court.
So I remember just being so pissed when it all happened because of how hard I had worked from my sophomore. You talk about your freshman to sophomore year jump. My sophomore to junior year, I was like completely different. Body weight, like strongest I've ever been. Fastest in conditioning I'd ever been. Like, I was a completely different player. You talk about the freshman to sophomore year. My sophomore to junior year was like unbelievable jump. And I remember just having like the best summer ever. And I'm like, this is the most prepared I've ever been for a season. I'm so ready for my junior year. So I think that's what played such a big part into why I was so disappointed, obviously, for many reasons. But it would happen my third game of the season. We were at Milwaukee, which is actually funny because my best friend plays from Milwaukee, and so I was playing against her. So obviously you got the Madison-Milwaukee rival.
For sure.
So it was like first quarter. I remember I wasn't I hadn't done much in the first like 6-7 minutes. I missed a couple shots.
Getting loose.
Yeah, just getting loose a little bit. Maybe didn't start the best, but I don't know. It was a freak accident, which really I think bothered me a lot because there's contact injuries, and you're like, well, that's uncontrollable. That's something that I can't. Somebody jams into my leg or something, or runs me over weirdly, and I twist. I can't control that. But mine was a freak accident, so I think later on mentally in the rehab really messed me up. And still to this day in some of the movements that I do. Basically, I just was driving baseline. I always rip. I was on the right side, rip, drive baseline. I've done that move. My dad has seen me do that move.
Times.
Yes, literally since I was in like 3rd grade. Ripped and drove baseline, and then I think I stepped. I don't know if I was trying to do a Euro, but I like stepped a little bit too far out with my right knee, trying to come back maybe middle or something, and my whole knee just like literally flattened sideways, like just
went down.
Oh God. And immediately was in pain. Like I literally think there's a video of it, and I just dropped the ball because I just turned it over. I just dropped it because I was in so much pain. And people ask me like, it's so interesting with ACL injuries and knee injuries that some people can get up and like start playing, or other people are like, oh, I'm gonna walk off. Like that was not me. I was, and I'm a very tough person. I was a little baby screaming on the ground because it was so bad. It felt like somebody was taking a blowtorch to my knee. So I was like screaming in pain on the ground, ended up getting like carried off or whatever to the back, and was doing fine. I was just like so disappointed. Obviously, it's the 3rd game of the season. I could tell it was really bad. Like my knee was the size of a boulder.
You knew kind of right away that it was major. It wasn't kind of something that was just.
I felt a pop, and I can show you the video after this too. You'll immediately see. Everybody, like even on I was in front of the Milwaukee bench, and like 3 of the head coaches stood up because they knew it was bad. Like. I don't know. I feel like my knee was sideways, honestly. And then I remember I think I like turned and it popped back into place. So it just was like, sorry, that's very graphic. But I just remember thinking like, oh my God, this hurts like hell. And I pretty much knew when I was in the back. I just remember like laying on the table, and the Milwaukee surgeon or whoever he was, athletic trainer, was evaluating me. And I was like, this is not good. Like I can't even walk right now on my knee. And then of course we had to take an 1.5-hour bus ride back. So it's like I'm sitting on the on the bus, and my leg is like bumping. So oh my God. So the next day I got the MRI, and I tore my ACL completely through, my MCL I think completely through. I don't know. It was horrible. Lateral meniscus and medial meniscus. So I was like, Jesus, let's just keep adding to the freaking thing. I've never heard somebody, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, but I tore 4 different things in there. And they call it the like unhappy triad or whatever when you do meniscus, MCL, and ACL. So I was like, well,
you did it all.
I'm done for the season with that one. Like, of course I'm going to do it up. If I'm going to tear it, I'm going to tear a bunch of things.
What kind of were the initial like emotions in your head when the doctors, because you got to get an MRI, you got to do all that thing, and then the doctor either calls you or visits with you, kind of like where did your mental go? What kind of emotions did you have right away when the doctor told you the news?
I had like, I thought the worst. Like I kind of felt it in my stomach that it was gonna. I mean, I could barely even walk, so I figured it was ACL. But you still have that like hope where it's like, well, maybe I just dislocated it or whatever. Maybe I'm just out, whatever. Then they come back with all that, and I'm like, holy crap. Like the little sheet that they give you, and then the doctor, explains all of it. I'm like bullets of like everything, like bruised whatever. And I'm like, my God, what is this? Like, what did I do?
I literally just look at dribble. My knee gave out.
And that's what scared me the most is that nobody came and hit me. And so that's why I'm like, how can I do this much damage? And my knee just like caves in like the way that it did. It was so bad. Literally. So I was just obviously like I broke down into tears. My coach was there, my athletic trainer. My best friend actually on the team, Lexi, had just hurt her knee 6 days earlier, and so you should have seen us two together in knee braces and stuff. It was horrible, but I don't know, I had some hope. And then obviously when you just receive the news, it's like all like reality hadn't set in. It's November, it's the 3rd game of the season. I was literally on such a high coming into the season, and then all of a sudden just like that with one bad step, it's all taken.
It's taken away. And it's such a unique thing too, because it's like you said, I even remember just like sitting there like, maybe something will heal me in the next day. Like, you're just like wishing all these things when it's kind of, I think that's something you common to do when it's like a bad injury, and it's like maybe something will heal me, and then you get the news and it's like, oh, I did all this work, like got to this point, and it's like it just gets taken away from you so quick. It's a unique feeling. I don't think it's a feeling that you could feel unless you kind of go through it. But you do go through it. You get the surgery. Take us through, thoughts going into surgery, out of surgery, physical pain, the mental, like, how did the surgery process kind of go for you?
So surgery went actually really well for me. My mom jokes all the time because I had shoulder surgery in high school too, that I'm just really good with surgery stuff. Like, it wasn't bad. The recovery, honestly, the first like couple days I just was really drugged up, obviously, but the worst was standing up. I don't know if you had that, blood. Like the blood flushes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, let me just stay in bed the whole day.
The worst thing in the world.
Like, my sister and everyone was saying like it's by like day 7 or 8 that it whatever, and I was feeling a lot better by day 4 or 5. So. Surgery was great. I was fortunate to stay home in Minnesota. I got it here actually with the Viking surgeon. I didn't get it with Wisconsin surgeons. They gave me a little bit of shit for that, but
I kind of got the same thing, but I did mine. I did mine through TCO. So
I did too. Who did you do?
LeProd.
Okay, I did Larson.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at us.
Bonding.
Yeah, bonding over knee trauma. My God. No, it was good. So I was home for a couple weeks, and my mom was like, obviously just taking care of me, so that was good. And then I went back after like 3 weeks. So I really spent like 3 weeks here in Minnesota just focusing on rehab. I miss my team, obviously. That was really hard, but it was like helpful to have my mom and people cater to me, obviously, when I couldn't do anything. Went back to Wisconsin, started training. It was my first like really big, besides my shoulder, like really big injury. And so I just was like focused. I was ready to go. I wasn't at that point mentally down. Then you kind of hit like the 3-4 month mark and you're like, why am I not
going
back? So the beginning was fine. The middle, like I said, like you kind of get antsy. There's the 3 month mark that you can kind of start running 3 to 4 months. I had to wait a little bit longer because I had so much damage. Like I was non-weight bearing, all that stuff.
6 weeks, right?
With the meniscus. So that was harder, is because I couldn't, normal ACL stuff, you can't go past a certain range, or you're supposed to be doing something at that time. And I couldn't do that because I had so many different things to fix that it was a little bit harder for me, that I couldn't follow like the normal ACL protocol. And then I think at like the 3 to 4 month mark, I was really starting to get down. I hated being away from, my team. I was gaining weight because I was sitting around and couldn't do anything. I had never been, sedentary like that my entire life. So that's when I really started like getting mentally down and kind of like doubting myself. And then I feel like it kind of turned a little bit of a corner when I could start running and doing more like elliptical and more, I guess, running stuff. So it kind of got me a little bit happier, but at that point I was down. Like I was mentally down.
No, and I think it's a common reaction that we don't even know is as common as it is, because it's like, I even had the same thing. It's like you get the surgery, it's like, okay, let's do this thing. Like, let's go. Like I'm going to be back. I got to be back for next year. And then it's like you're 3 months into this, like wake up every day, rehab. And then it's like,
it's the same thing over and over too.
That's what I've told people in my life too. It feels like you're on just like this roller coaster. It's like over and over again. You're doing the same stuff, and it's just like at one point it's just gonna defeat you. You know what I'm saying? And
you're still dealing with school and everything else.
Yeah, you're still a student at you got so much stuff on your plate. And it's like it's not a walk in the park.
No.
And it's like people are like, how's rehab going? And I was like, you tell them good, and it's like it's good, but it's like this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
It's mentally challenging.
You get to that kind of 4 month mark, and you deal with that, the mental hardship, mental health, and where did you go? What did you lean on? How did you kind of get through that and break through to be able to get into the second part of rehab?
I leaned a lot on my teammates. Like I said, it was actually, she would hate me for saying this, but it was nice to have Lexi, my best friend who had just hurt her knee, because we were roommates. And so, like I said, imagine us 2 knee braces like crutching in the frickin' snow. It was horrible in Wisconsin too. So we were a sight to see with that, but it was helpful with her because she was in rehab with me. One of the men's players had just torn his ACL around the same time too, so it kind of was helpful with him. His name is Trevor, because we were in competition. Like we were literally like a week apart or something, and so it kind of helped me push each other. in our rehab and be able to talk about, like, we'd have knee talks all the time. We'd walk in there and be like, oh, I'm having a bad day, Trevor. Like, I need to talk about this stuff. Or, you know, I'm having a really good day and maybe he's off. And so we help each other with that. So I definitely think it was my teammates, my roommates, who are still obviously my teammates, but they kind of just distracted me with stuff. Like we would go to the movies or, you know, go out to eat or something just to at least get me out of the house because I felt like when I had my injury, I would stop doing as much stuff.
100%.
You're limited and stuff. You know, maybe I couldn't go to a football game. Yeah, you don't want to be bumped. Well, you know, I was still wearing a knee brace. They made me wear a knee brace just when I was out in public, even though I didn't need it. But you're in Wisconsin, you're on snow. Like, I slip and fall.
Ice everywhere.
You're out at a party or something and someone bumps into you. You know, you don't want to be dumb like that. So, I don't know. They just got me out of the house more. It was definitely my teammates. Obviously, I leaned on my family, too. I called them many times crying, and, you know, but they obviously weren't there. But they made the drive a lot, which I very much appreciated. My parents never missed a game my entire freshman, sophomore year. They drove to home games. They flew to away games. They didn't make every away game, but every home game. And then they still even came when I was injured my junior year.
Well, that's, you know, it's such a special thing, too, because we've talked about a lot on the pod where it's like, you have so many things on your chest and so much on your mind where it's like, if you know you want to, you know, be strong and you want to, and especially now you're a junior, you know, you're looked as you know, probably one of the you know, the scorers, you know, one of the girls that the younger girls are looking to for, you know, for advice, for, you know, leadership. And it's like, you can't be out there on the court, and it's like these feelings, they just like add up and they weigh on you, and like if you just hold them in, they just continue to you know, just weigh down on you. But if you have somebody like, you know, you mentioned those two people, it's great to be able to just kind of just like get stuff off your chest and be able to like move on from it, you know. And it's a special thing. And you do move on, you know, you get through this ACL. It took you you know what, like 12, 14 months,
so I'll
like that.
tell you, most people don't even know why it took that long is because I was 6 months into the process. So after that, so I'm on kind of a low. I start to run or whatever. I'm feeling really good because I'm able to do like full lifts with the team. I'm able to start doing straight running, not, you know, cutting stuff, but I'm getting involved more. So I'm like, okay, I'm on the high. Like, I'm past the hard part right now. And then it was July of going into would have been my redshirt junior, but senior.
Yeah, right.
No, because I tore it in 2020.
July 2020.
Was it?
You tore it in
2018. I did. 19.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh my God, I got all my notes here.
Am I that old? My God. So July 2019. I was a little pissed at Wisconsin. I still am because they had me doing something that I was not supposed to be doing as a conditioning. I was not clear to do yet. I remember, you know, you have like the monthly, you know, testing for your strength and stuff like that. And I just had that, and my quad was at like 60% compared to the left one. So I'm like nowhere close to, you know.
They want you at like 70 before, you know, you do a lot of, or
before,
like 75.
I think it was like 75 for me. And I just knew I was like, you look at my quad and it was like flimsy. Like it was not strong.
You can tell you're not ready to.
Yeah.
100%.
And so they had me doing conditioning stuff, running downhill. Why do you run downhill? I don't know. Running uphill, I feel like, is it. But running downhill is where you literally, and they were focusing on like deceleration and like being able to stop your momentum, which is the number one thing that your quad does.
You're like, this was the dumbest shit.
And like, literally, this is so dumb. And I remember the first rep, I was running downhill and I was super cautious. I was like super slow. I was not sprinting. And everyone was kind of like, Courtney, what the hell? And I just was like, I remember thinking like, I don't feel comfortable doing this.
Yeah, you're cautious. You don't want to hurt it again.
Yeah, like I'm like, I can feel my quad literally not being able to stop right now. And your ACL also takes like all of that momentum. Yeah. So second rep, I feel a pop, and I'm like, no freaking way right now. And so I'm walking off. It's not like tremendous pain. It wasn't like the ACL pain or anything like that. And I'm like, what is this? But the back of my leg is hurting, like my entire back of my leg. So I'm like, swear to God, right now. Like, I'm 6 months in. I'm on the mend. They told me it was going to take like 9 months. So I'm like, and it's July. I'm like, I have a lot of time before preseason.
Yeah.
So ended up re-tearing my meniscus even bigger. I did it like twice the size. So I have like a new tear in the meniscus. And so that took me out then that one was non-weight bearing. I had to get it repaired. I didn't, you know, when you like just cut it out or whatever, it whatever. But repairing took a long time, and I was then sidelined until December.
Wow.
So then I'm dealing with that again, and that's when my mental really went downhill.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with like re-injury and rate of reoccurrence and stuff like that. I was so down bad after that, and I was really pissed at Wisconsin. I was pissed at myself for not stopping myself. So then that's kind of where all of like the doubt starts creeping in. And I'm like, am I going to be the same player because
100%.
of this second injury? Like, now I'm out for an entire freaking like year and some change. I haven't played basketball since
A lot of time.
like over a year.
Yeah.
It was like 400 something days when I counted. I don't even remember what it is
well,
now.
you think you got the first one in early November, and then you did
early November, and I didn't start playing until like January.
It says January 16th you made your first appearance against Michigan. So that's, you talk about a year and a couple months. Yeah.
So, and then I'm also thrown in, that's the biggest thing, I'm thrown into Big Ten play.
Right away.
I'm not even
Michigan.
into like
You
Arkansas Pine Bluff.
You don't got Chicago State.
I don't have Chicago State.
You got
to be able to do
Michigan.
that.
You got the big house.
I have Michigan and freaking Naz Hillman and like all these girls that are
some
all
shit.
stars.
No.
So that's when I would say, so my first time around with the ACL was honestly, I mean, looking back, it was not as bad as the second round of rehab, just because not even like physically, but mentally, that's when I was so just like angry. I was doubtful. I was like no confidence, no self-esteem. Like I was pissed. So that I just feel like was my biggest like rehab part of it. That was a huge transition for me, and I really still to this day like think about that, because if that time wouldn't have happened, I feel like my career would have been completely different. Which is really sad to think about. But
No, I mean it is, and at the same time, it's like you're doing all these things. You're so cautious. You want to get back, and then something little like this pops up. And lateral, was it lateral?
It was medial again.
Yeah, medial again.
And only 3 times as big as the first tear. So I'm like, how is that even possible? The first one was bad.
Like, no, 100%. And people don't realize these meniscus tears are like things that like end people's careers. Like these aren't like, you can take the meniscus out and kind of just be done. But if you go and repair it, like you're putting yourself in a position where it's like, you could possibly not be the same player you are one day. And you have to like, the doctors tell you that too. And it's like hearing that from a doctor, I'm sure you heard it too, is like, what do you mean I can't go and jump 40 something inches again? Well, like I have to kind of take us through that one where it's like, obviously you do eventually get back on the court, but like to hear I'm going through this process and it's tore again. Like, where'd you go and how'd you get through it?
Well, that second time, like I said, was hard. I remember that's when Dr. Larson, I got it again with him, and because I wanted him to, he was the one who saw my knee the first time. He knows me. I've been, talking to him for the last year. Also, he's just such a sweetheart. He's the best surgeon ever. But I remember he did say something like, he's like, Courtney, I love you, but you are going to have to like think of other stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not giving up basketball right now. What are you talking about?
Shut
He's
up.
just like, I know, literally. Like, I know that, you love basketball, and I'm not saying that you have to be done right now, but you are going to be a completely different player. Like, you have an unstable knee, clearly, that like, it's not the same as how it was a year ago or 2 years ago, or the same player that you were. So that's, like I said, where the doubt came in. And I actually, after that second surgery, I have a whole like 3 different scars on the right side of my knee because they tightened up something, not even with, so I have a meniscal thing on the left, like the inside of the knee, and then I have 7 scars on my knee.
Damn, I got 6. You got me beat.
We'll compare our scars. But my whole right side of my knee, they like tightened something so that like the instability like that wouldn't happen. So that was just a lot. I think it was the ALL or something like that. But as soon as he starts talking about that, and we're going to go do extra stuff to make sure this doesn't happen, or your instability, and I'm just like, that's where I'm like, oh my God, they're doing so much to my knee right now. And then he's talking about, you might need a knee replacement. You're going to like,
down the road.
Down the road, you're like, your meniscus is shot right now. You have arthritis at the age of 23 years old. You have no cartilage left, and that's why you're probably still in pain, because it's bone on bone. So I'm like, all this stuff, that's when it was really hard for me. That was never the talk with the ACL. Never the talk. So that's when it became, like I said, more mentally challenging for me, is because I had all that doubt creeping in. And you talk to like you see all these people go through these ACL recoveries and they come back and maybe they're even better. Like Adrian Peterson, you come back and you're even stronger.
Yeah, beast.
Yeah. And I just was not seeing that because of the fact that I had the second injury and because of the fact that it had been like 13, 14 months since I had played. And I came back really cautious. And I will say my head coach didn't really help me my senior year coming back. Like, he made me honestly less confident because I was thrown into Big Ten games. And instead of kind of like encouraging me, it was kind of like, I mean, he encouraged me, but it wasn't like, you are going to be the same player you were again. He gave me like very limited minutes. I'd make one mistake and I'd get thrown out. I'm like, well, I haven't played in 14 freaking months.
You haven't played in like 500 days.
I'm rusty. I'm one of your star players. I was a former starter and you're acting like I'm some bench player that doesn't mean anything to you. I'm like, I literally put my heart and soul into this team for the first 3 years. I had to force myself to become a leader off the court, obviously. And now I just kind of felt like forgotten, honestly. And I'm like, I don't know if you just look at me like damaged goods or what, but like it's hurtful. Like,
and you're putting more pressure on yourself too.
Yes.
At the end of the day, like it's the reason why and I'm not speaking for you, but the reason why I feel some of the things is like you're putting so much pressure on yourself that it seems like, all these other people got like so much on you, and it's like, hey, I gotta show up, and I feel like I'm ready, and it's like you just have so many different like emotions flowing from so many different avenues that it's like it's hard to like center yourself and the pressure on yourself, like you said, like that's where my doubting of like, am I ever going to be the same player? Am I going to be able to play overseas like I wanted to? Like my goal was always to play professionally. And now after that second one, I was like, I have a bum knee. Like, this is going to be really hard. Like, I see players in the league who have bum knees, but like when he starts talking about arthritis and you don't have cartilage and you're going to have to get a knee replacement at the age of 40 years old if you continue pushing it like this, I'm like, what is worth it? What is worth it and what is not? Am I going to be the same player again? And I think, and you can, talk this as well, but your love for basketball didn't change. And, you still wanted to be around basketball. Yeah. And I think it does. And I think that's something that we've talked about on the pod too, where it's like when something gets taken away from you and you're not able to do it for your sake, 15 months. For my sake, it's going on like 20-something months now.
My God.
It's like, how do you form this like identity in basketball, and you're more than a basketball player, but like you form this identity where it's like, hey, I play basketball, it's what I do, and it's like I haven't been able to do this, so like what's next? Talk about that and like your decision to transfer to DePaul for one final year. Why is it because of the love for basketball, and where did that kind of go?
So I was already unhappy, honestly, with Wisconsin kind of going into my junior year, and then when it shit hit the fan with my knee and everything, I knew I wanted to transfer. So I ended up transferring, obviously, for grad school. I got my undergrad at Wisconsin and then transferred to DePaul. And DePaul was somebody that was recruiting me in high school, too. It just wasn't really a big enough, like, campus feel for me. It's very, obviously, like, city feel. It's downtown Chicago. So I had already had the campus atmosphere and the Big Ten and all that with Wisconsin that I was like, let me go to Chicago. That ended up being a fantastic move for me besides my knee, but with coaches, Doug Bruno is like the best of the best. He's obviously like up there with UConn, Gino and everything, but he's USA basketball coach. Like I really regretted, like I loved my experience at Wisconsin, but I regretted not choosing more for like the coach instead. Like I was looking at academics, I was looking at like life after basketball. How can Wisconsin set me up? I was looking at campus atmosphere, like all that. And I really wish I would have focused a lot on coaching because I feel like if I would have been coached by him for 4 years or 3 years or whatever it was, like my whole career would have been changed. He was just really awesome to be around for a year, and I ended up freaking re-tearing my lateral meniscus in preseason at DePaul, and I just hung it up after that because that's when my surgeon Larson was just like, you are not going to be able to do this. Like you keep re-tearing your meniscus, either the medial or the lateral. So something's not going well. So at that point, I'm like, I don't want to get a knee replacement at the age of 35. So I chose myself. A lot of people at DePaul didn't really understand that at the time. I'm coming in and I'm a grad transfer, so they don't know me that well. So when I come in and I ended up getting hurt in the preseason, don't even have one game, they're just like, you're done already?
Yeah.
And they didn't understand the whole backstory.
They don't know all the
They
things
didn't know
that
everything that I went through.
Yeah.
They didn't even like know me that well, you know? And so, I mean, some of them understood it, and they said, like, you need to put yourself. They look at my knee and they see all the scars on my knee. They're like, oh, you've been through shit. Like, but I just remember some of them did not, and they were like, you came in, you gave up. So that really kind of like hurt my ego, honestly, because I'm like, I used to be this hell of a player.
If only you knew what I did back in my day. You know?
Like, I was the player. And you know, I grew up as one of the top players in Minnesota, top players in my AAU team. I go to Wisconsin, I'm starting as a freshman, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm a nobody. And I'm like, holy crap.
You're not a nobody.
I'm not a nobody, but I feel like a nobody. I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do with my life? And so basketball came to an end way faster than I thought it would. Like, I thought I was still going to have a whole year. And people always talk to you, like Wisconsin was like, get your internships or like start looking at whatever, because it's going to end faster than you think. I'm like, oh, I'm a sophomore, I have time or whatever. Or even as a freaking grad transfer, I was like, oh, I still have a year.
I'm the same way right now.
Yeah, I still have a year. Let me tell you, it comes faster. And so then I'm like, what do I do with my life right now that I'm no longer, for the last 24 or whatever it was, 18 years, I was a basketball player. Like, I started playing as a second grader. Fell in love with the game. And I'm like, I'm done. Within, again, one play, I'm done. And I don't know what to do. I am huge on fitness and working out, and I'm limited with my knee. Like, I don't know what I want to do. So I ended up getting my master's at DePaul in sports administration, and then my undergrad was in marketing. So I'm like, how can I put all this together? I love my experience at DePaul, by the way. I just, it just was time for me to get out of sports.
Do something new.
That's why I find it a little interesting that there's like 27-year-olds that are still in college athletics, because I was just ready to go.
And it's like that's just too. It's like, it's fair. It's like, hey, I did my thing. I did my time, and it's like it just didn't pan out the way I wanted to pan out. Like, what's next? And we'll let's tap into that. Like, what's next? You know, you move out to LA. You're working with the Clippers now. Kind of just take us through. Like, you seem really happy out there. Take us through that.
Yeah. So I will say I was lost. Like, everyone says when you're transitioning, like, I was lost. I went to Arizona. My family had an Airbnb out there for a couple months, and I was out there partying. Like, I was just like
having a good time. It's like,
I'm like, well, it's my first time not being a college athlete. Like.
You went through 15 months of rehab.
Yeah, I'm like, just F it. Like,
let's go.
Yeah, like, let's just go party for a couple weeks. And so I'm sitting there, and everyone's like, what are you doing with your life now? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I
got to figure that out.
I'm just at Maya on a Sunday.
Let me do one more shot of Casamigos, so then I'll answer
that. So I came back, and I was, like, looking for jobs. And I will say, everybody said, it's not as easy as you think when you're looking for jobs. I had an ego, and I was like, I'm an athlete. People love to hire athletes. Everyone loves, you're a leader. You're good at, communicating. You have all these skills. You'll be good. You'll get picked up, for a job. And I was like searching for months and months, and I'm just sitting in my home in Minneapolis or in Minnetonka, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm searching for jobs. I don't even know what I want to do, maybe necessarily. Like, I have a lot of passions, but like,
don't know what revenue.
Yeah, people ask, like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Like, I literally don't know. I'm 23 years old at 24. I don't know what I was at the time. So I end up coming across this Clippers job, and I knew I wanted to work for, like, some sort of sports, maybe fitness, a team would be great. Stay in the sports world. Yeah, stay in sports. And I knew one person in LA, and it was Amir. Literally. And it happened to obviously be that he was playing with Clippers. But I was like, I don't know anyone in LA. So that was really scary for me. I obviously, fortunately, got the job, moved out to LA, and like I said, he was the one person that I knew. And I'm like, this is such a big city, like, what am I doing now? And then it was really hard for me, because I'm like, all I've known is practices and conditioning and school, and now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm adult, I'm on my own, like, I don't have to do any of that or whatever. So that was really fun for me, but it was also really sad, and I still, like, to this day think of all the like fun times. Like I miss basketball.
Yeah.
It's really nice for me to be around basketball still. Like that's part of the reason I really wanted to work for the Clippers or any basketball team, obviously in general. Because I'm still around the game I love. I get paid to go watch basketball.
Yeah.
Like I get paid to interview players and be around them and, you know, brand them. And now it's really fun for me because I am learning the business side of it, obviously. So I, as an athlete, you see, you know, I just show up and I play.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing the business side of it. How do we market players? How do we brand players? How do we tell their story? And I'm coming at it with an athletic perspective and background. So I know like, okay, this is what I liked as an athlete. This is what I didn't like, how they portrayed athletes or whatever. And so I'm coming at it with a business perspective of, I have both sides. Like I know the athlete side and I know I work in brand marketing or whatever. And so it's really fun for me to be able to see both sides of that and be able to like, that's my favorite thing. I love telling athlete stories. I love this idea with the podcast and that you can go through everyone's stories.
Yeah.
So.
And it's such a unique thing, and people don't realize, like, at the end of the day, like, it's a business, you know, and it's like, guys are showing up and doing their job, but they're more than, you know, basketball players, and they want to be branded as such. And it's like you have a special, I think you have a special like perspective on you know, these players, especially knowing Amir too, where you have like an in with some of the players. It's like, you know, you still love the sport, like you still love being around it. It's something you love to do, and it's like you're just at it and you're looking at it from a different lens now, which is cool to hear, you know, especially for me myself, because like, at the end of the day, like, the ball's going to stop bouncing one day. You know, like, I'm sure you realize that through your career. And it's like, what's next for me? And now you're living out in LA, working for the Clippers. Like, you know, it's crazy how, like, this roller coaster we go on, you know? And it's like, and that's why I'm so excited about the podcast and the future of the podcast. I think my last question for you, and I like to wrap up with kind of advice. You know, the story you went through, the journey you went through, everybody's journey is going to be different, but I'm sure you have something in your mind that's consistent. You know, what advice would you have for, you know, 14-year-old Courtney, or like a 14-year-old out there or a younger person out there that's going to go through something that you went through? Like, what kind of advice would you have for them?
My biggest advice is to find yourself through the process. You're going to have adversity. Shit's going to hit the fan. I would definitely just say, like, the saying, you grow through what you go through. I found myself through all that adversity. I would not be, I say this all the time, I would not be the same person as I, you know, was before 100%. If I hadn't have gone through those injuries. As unfortunate as it was, I wouldn't, you know, obviously wish that on anyone, but I mean, you talked to Eric Curry. Eric and I leaned on each other a lot during our rehab processes because I kind of did like similar injuries as him. And like, we talk about all the time to this day that we are just different people. When you learn from it, you're stronger, you're more confident. Like, you just have more leadership skills. And like I said, you are more than an athlete. So it's learning how to be a leader on and off the court. So I would just say, just keep working hard, be resilient through that. I literally got a resilient tattoo after my parents did not like that. After I went through all that shit. And like I said, I just would not be the same person. So I really found myself, found God, found, you know, more friends and different people, and what I really wanted with my life after all of that, that I would not have known if I hadn't gone through that.
No, that's amazing. I think, you know, even I heard Victor Oladipo on a podcast. He doesn't use the word unfortunate anymore. He only uses the word fortunately. And it's like, you know, you grow,
I like that.
and you change, and it's like it's shaped you into who you are, and you're you know, at the end of the day, you're who you are, and you're proud to be who you are. So Courtney, thank you for coming on episode 14 of the Double Down podcast. Like I mentioned in the opening, we are going to take 2 weeks off, so we'll be back with episode 15 in the new year. With that being said, it's been Parker Fox, the Double Down podcast, and we are out. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.